Hey everyone, welcome back to Thriving in Ambiguity, the podcast where I try to make sense of all the crazy, complex, and constantly changing stuff in the world of technology and government, ideally without losing our minds. I just got back from NASCIO last week, and I've got some real thoughts and insights from all of the great sessions I went to. I went in looking to understand what trends CIOs and IT leaders in state government are focused on. That way I can be more impactful and bring more value to my work. And with topics around AI, digital identity, and workforce modernization, I came out with a mix of inspiration, caution, and a couple of good stories that I didn't see coming. So today, I'm giving you the full recap, the good, the messy, and the conversations we need to be having. Oh, and a quick shout out to the NASCIO organization. The mid-year conference was extremely well run and organized. It was a great opportunity to be a part of, and I know that I took a lot away from the experience. So, the conference kicked off talking about the state CIO survey and which topics leaned heavy on their minds. And they stated that the number one priority keeping CIOs up at night is cybersecurity, which I totally get. But you know what's funny? I don't think there was one session addressing it. Maybe they are concerned, but maybe they feel like they have a good handle on it, or maybe there's just a bigger elephant in the room. And that was likely AI, because AI being the number two priority on the survey, and it was obvious as this was the topic that just about every session hit on in some way. So let's dig into the first session. I sat in on a workshop with Kevin Gilbertson from Montana and Chris Rain from New Jersey, and the vibe was very clear. AI is no longer a science project. It's a real tool. But the hardest part isn't the tech, it's the data. Most states don't have a digital quality program. They don't even fully know what data they have. So it's funny, as one of the first topics they brought up was asking if anybody was dipping their toes into AI agents, and in a packed auditorium, not one hand went up. Yeah, not one. And to me, that's not surprising, as I feel like that's more of a phase 2 or 3 in the AI journey. First, you really need to understand a business challenge, and from there, you could start to build that workflow. And honestly, from the conversations most people were having, they're just trying to wrap their heads around what data they have and if it's any good. And you know what? That's actually a huge opportunity, not just for vendors, but for IT leaders, the folks who can help agencies ask the right questions. What's the problem you're trying to solve? What business outcome are you chasing? And how do we build trust in that process? Like I said, most of the conversations were focused on data quality. CIOs understood that if their data isn't good, the outcome will likely suck as well. But someone made a great point that heavy governance, or waiting until the data is perfect, can also become a mindset that stalls progress. And there needs to be a happy medium there. So another big theme across the room was, don't just do AI for AI's sake. What's the business challenge? What's the why? Then the conversation turned to, okay, what are some of the use cases everyone's working on? Because it was obvious people are struggling to know where to begin. And this is where I saw some creativity, which was great. One state started with the Office of Communication and is using generative AI for marketing and content purposes. And just like we heard from Chris Carr at Dynamics AI a few weeks ago, that's a great opportunity, as AI is great in that space. Another state was using AI to create educational content for its inmates in the Department of Corrections. Thought that was really creative. But my favorite was from a state putting together a use case within their Department of Health Services. caseworkers could get quick summaries of the important notes and data, potentially from years of patient records. This helps deliver safer and more informed services at the edge. And even IBM was working with them, and they were helping build out a selective redaction process based on user access, essentially a need-to-know model for case data. It's a reminder that large OEM vendors like HPE, Dell, IBM, and others have fantastic technical resources. And if you're not talking to them, understanding their strengths, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. There are too many free resources there to learn from and get started in that conversation. Earlier, the better. In reality, though, most adoption so far has been through SaaS applications. They're leveraging companies that identify niche problems, and they've built AI-powered apps to help solve them. The users see value right away. The ease of deployment and focus is what makes it stick and fairly easy for people to wrap their heads around. But that's a great transition to my next session, as this use of SaaS applications was studied by a team of experts from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In PA, Harrison McRae, Director of Emerging Technologies, and his team dug into AI usage and put together some pilot programs. They actually found that off-the-shelf AI tools, like I just mentioned, had a 50% failure rate. They had 2 warnings. First, you need tight alignment between the use case and the tool. And secondly, you need to be careful what tools you're choosing, as many startups actually are coming and going in an instant. So when you're embracing a point product, it could unfortunately disappear as the landscape is constantly changing. So you really need to do some homework there. The next thing they studied was the use of generative AI. They rolled out a ChatGPT enterprise pilot to 175 employees. The goal of the pilot was to leverage Gen AI safely by using OpenAI's enterprise platform, ensuring that data was tightly controlled. See, they didn't want their data going into public products, so the enterprise agreement ensured their data was secure. One of the use cases I loved was they know vendors struggle with procurement, and they found out that they have 93 procurement-related policies that needed to be signed off for you to do business with the Commonwealth. This was just one of those natural things that happened over many, many, many years, and it's almost like technical debt for policies. So they pointed AI at their policies, and looking at those 93 policies, they were able to remove the redundancies that they found and were able to get that down to actually 34. That's a huge reduction in red tape for everyone. They also used AI to create onboarding training materials for over 80,000 state employees. I thought that was really, really good. And just once again, I mean, that's kind of like table stakes at this point. These are things that AI is very, very good at, and it's very easy to use. And the survey numbers from this were pretty impressive. Employees surveyed after the pilot said that they saved 90 minutes per person per day. I mean, I'm sure everyone would like to get an extra hour and a half or 2 from their day. So this was a great first effort put forward by the Commonwealth. And some of the other highlights from this session, they're focused on operational efficiency at this point. So they're not doing anything around resident-facing AI tools. They're working with universities, though, to help bridge the skills gap, leveraging data scientists, interns, and young IT students to meet the many demands that they're facing. One person actually asked if they are extending this partnership to K-12, which actually resonated with me, with my background, and they said not at this time. And in my opinion, that would be a really valuable next step for them to take, because Working with, let's say, vocational programs could further enhance the foundational skills students could build. And the sooner they have those, and the sooner that schools know what skills they need to be teaching, the better that process can become. Now, they also know that there are still a lot of challenges that they need to overcome. They're trying to figure out capacity scaling right now and how to extend the things that they've learned to the broader audience across dozens of agencies. So they also see a clear need for a curated set of tools and approved use cases, because what they're trying to avoid is like analysis by paralysis. So overall, it was a really great informative session, and it felt good for me being a resident of Pennsylvania. It was so good to hear all of the good things that they're working on and the steps that they're taking. Now, one thing I love about these types of conferences is that they typically bring in top-notch keynote speakers. And this one definitely hit me differently. I didn't see this one coming. Phil Hansen, he's an incredible artist, and he told a powerful story called Embrace the Shake. His message: we need to stop fighting our limitations and start using them. He talked about how he developed a tremor in his hand that nearly ended his art career until he embraced it. He basically made that tremor a part of his work, and that's when he found his true voice. And it made me think, what's our shake in government? What's our challenges and limitations? Is it red tape? Is it budget? Is it legacy systems? The truth is, those constraints can actually guide our best ideas if we stop trying to work around them and start going right at them. Think about it for a second. What separates good from great? In my mind, it's how we deal with adversity. Do we give up and say, yeah, it can't be done? Or do we find another way? Do we use our creativity and problem solving to push through and come out stronger on the other side? Phil's story reminded me of my own philosophy, one that I had a long time ago, that stated that if it was the right thing to do for the students that I supported, then that's what me and the team were going to do. No matter how hard, it was worth it because it was right for kids. He went from being a good artist to a truly great one, not by overcoming the shake, but by embracing it. And it was a truly powerful story. So I just love that kind of thing. So now getting back to the sessions, this next session surprised me because honestly, I went to the mobile driver's license session mainly to see if Pennsylvania is getting on the digital bandwagon anytime soon. Spoiler alert, I didn't see anybody mention it, but I did walk away with a much bigger insight and something I had never considered before. The CIO of Arizona made a critical point. He said, if digital IDs are going to be used to verify identity, could that data be used to track purchases, your movements, and your habits? CIOs were pretty clear here. They didn't want to be responsible for that data in any way. And if it had to be collected to authenticate, so be it. But it needed to be deleted immediately after use. And CIOs stated, even that's risky. The conversation, kind of shifted and said, all it takes is one signature and a policy change can happen, and boom, now that data is being stored. And that was a real concern for them. And I had to admit, I had not thought about that at all. I was just thinking, hey, I want to get my digital license so I could ditch my wallet. I mean, it's the one last thing I have to carry around with me, now that I've fully adapted technologies like Apple Pay and all my credit cards are kind of, virtualized. It's the one piece I'm like, why do I have to carry this one document with me? It's so annoying. But kind of makes sense now. So because the privacy side of all this matters. And like everything else in tech, it always comes down to trust. We always have, if you're going to embrace technology, you're always trusting somebody, whether it's your IT department or if it's somebody like Apple and Google for using our phones. We always have to trust somebody. So shouldn't we be able to trust our state government and our larger federal government? You would think, right? But from the tone in the room, that trust just isn't quite there yet. Think about all of the places you use your license: airports, traffic stops, bars, major purchases. If digital ID data is logged or shared, it creates a new surveillance concern. And then even in states that do have this digital license, things are a little messy right now. Feedback from some of the audience members who had just traveled to NASCIO and tried to use their digital IDs said that people at TSA are still asking for physical cards. They said that the equipment is there. They could actually physically see it. It was typically off to the side or in a secondary scanning location, but it's not being used at this point. So they weren't really sure if it's a training issue or something else. But in every case, they were still asked to present their physical ID. And one of the members said that one of the TSA agents came up to them as they were walking through and said, "You better keep that ID in your pocket for the foreseeable future." So he obviously knew that this wasn't something that was happening anytime soon. But at the end of the day, it was a good conversation, and there was things that came up like, if you have your digital ID, is it going to be honored in other states? What's that going to look like? And it was pretty obvious, like there's work that needs to be done. But the good news is that people are talking about it, and they're thinking about their residents, and they're thinking about security. And I guess I'm just going to have to wait a little bit longer till I can get that digital ID and ditch that wallet of mine. But like I said, the conversation was real good. Now, the last session I attended was one of the most grounded, and I really enjoyed it. And it was led by the CIO of Georgia. And he started with a big question. He said, how would Apple design government services? He said that every touch point, every click, every form, it's all a conversation with the end user. He talked about journey mapping, simplifying interfaces, and building services that earn trust, not just check compliance boxes. And my favorite part, he sent his staff to the furthest parts of the state to build persona maps, making sure voices from rural, urban, and underserved areas all had a seat at the design table. I thought that was really creative. People in cities, he said, people in cities use government services differently than those in remote areas with poor internet. So designing for both isn't a nice to have, it's a design constraint. He also said something that really stuck with me. He said, don't collect data you don't intend to use. It only creates risk, and privacy without purpose erodes trust. So, Georgia's dashboards, service blueprints, and user focus is the real deal. It was really, this guy was focused, and I loved it. So here's a couple of his key takeaways. Design like a private sector product team, but with public sector accountability. Use data to understand residents, not just to report to leadership, and build services that feel like they were made for me. Okay? So, honestly, for anybody wondering if our CIOs are working on the behalf of their residents, there was proof that yes, they absolutely are. They're doing this work with limited resources, tons of pressure, and big expectations, and they're using collaboration, and they're moving things forward, and they're putting people first, which is really great to hear. Across the couple days that I was there, I really, really got that feeling. So, what did I take away from NASCIO, the mid-year conference? I would say we're past the AI hype. The conversations are now about governance, trust, and execution. AI data, digital identity, it's very real. It's messy. And I feel like that's okay. The job now isn't to make it perfect. It's basically to get started. Start where you are and with what you have, and to do it intentionally. And maybe along the way, embrace the shake and not make excuses for all the challenges that we all have. So, thanks for joining this episode of Thriving in Ambiguity. I hope you liked it. Please share it with a friend. Honestly, that's how we grow this whole thing. If you like the content, the only one way to get it out there, and that's to subscribe and tell some people about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So if you have some comments, please put it out there. Let me know if you feel like CEOs are doing a good job or not doing a good job. Let me know. But I honestly took a lot of positives from the conference. So like I said, it was great. I really appreciate you joining. And until next time, keep learning and keep thriving.